Hello and welcome to IUL 101 at LFS. In this video, we're going to talk about what an Index Universal Life Insurance Plan is, how to identify an IUL client, and how to build a plan to meet that client's needs. The main objective of an IUL is to grow cash value. That's what these plans are designed to do. And once that cash value starts growing, it's really up to your client to decide how they may want to use it. Obviously, this is a life insurance plan, and so there's also a tax-free death benefit involved here as well. When trying to determine who is or is not an ideal IUL candidate, we've got some suggestions for you here. Now, your client doesn't have to meet each and every one of these, but the more they meet, the better. So people who are in good health, usually standard non-tobacco or better, somewhere in the age ranges of mid-20s to mid-50s, are going to be really good people to talk to as far as IUL goes. Also, children are excellent candidates here because children have very low cost of insurance and they have a long time to let that cash value grow. Now, like I say, if your client doesn't meet each and every one of these pieces of information, that's okay. We can still work with them. Just like I said, the more they meet, the better. When it comes to talking about what the IUL could be used for, there are many different ways that the cash value in one of these plans can be used, such as maybe there's a large medical bill that comes out of nowhere. Maybe the client needs money for a down payment on a home or a car. Many of these plans are actually designed to be tax-free retirement vehicles in clients' later years. When building a quote on an IUL, it's a little bit different than building other life insurance quotes. For example, like say you're going to build a quote for a term plan. Well, you're going to want to put in the client's information, and you're also usually going to put in a face amount, and then you're going to solve for the premium. It's a little bit different with an IUL. You're still going to want to put in that client's personal data. That means their full date of birth, their gender, their age, and their health class, and their tobacco status. But instead of a face amount, we're going to put in the premium amount that they have to pay and for how long, and then we're going to solve for what's called minimum death benefit, maximum cash value to avoid a MEC. If you don't know what a MEC is, don't worry, we're going to cover that here in just one moment. The reason we solve for that is so that we want to make sure that as much of that premium going in goes towards cash value and not paying for a large death benefit. So when we solve that way, the system will find a death benefit that will still accept all of that cash value and keep the death benefit amount right above the guideline levels so that we can stay within those MEC guidelines. If you don't know how to structure a plan from a premium standpoint, a good suggestion is however old your client is, whatever decade of age they're in, about that many $100 a month is a good starting point. What I mean by that is if they're in their 20s, maybe around $200, in their 30s, $300, in their 40s, $400, and so on. The reason for that is the older a client gets, the higher their internal cost of insurance is going to be, and also the less time they have that policy building cash value. So the older they get, they're going to have to ratchet up their premiums a little bit more as well. If you have somebody that doesn't quite have that much, maybe it's somebody in their mid-40s and they have about $300 a month, that's fine. That's not a deal breaker. Send the quote request to us and we can still work it out for you. But if it's that client who's in their mid-40s and maybe they only have like $100 a month, this probably isn't going to be the proper plan for them. MEC. MEC stands for Modified Endowment Contract. And what that means is once a plan becomes a MEC, your client can no longer take out tax-free income and tax-free withdrawals. It's going to be taxable money once it's a MEC. And so when we solve to make sure that the death benefit will accept all the premium that the client wants to put in and still stay high enough so that it avoids being a MEC. Think of it this way. Think of your policy as a water balloon. So you're going to hook up your water balloon to a faucet and try to get as much water into that balloon as possible so that you can still tie a knot and have that balloon not burst in your hand. Now think of it from the IUL standpoint. The IUL, the plan itself, is the balloon, and the premium dollars are the water. We're going to want to put as many premium dollars into that plan so it grows as much as it can and not become a MEC. Because once a water balloon bursts, you can't put it back together. Well, once a life insurance policy is a MEC, you can't unmec it. A client cannot take money out to get under the guidelines and be able to go back to being non-MEC. So that's why we want to structure this to avoid becoming a modified endowment contract at all costs. As far as paying the premiums into these plans, Usually 5 to 7 years is about the shortest amount of time that a client can fund one of these plans. If you have a client that's got a large single premium that they want to dump in, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Reach out to us. There are ways we can work with that and spread the premium out over time to make sure it does not become a mech. But in general, you'll want to let your clients know we need to pay into this plan for at least usually between 5 and 7 years. As far as the premium structure goes, you're going to want to really encourage your client to stick with how this plan was illustrated. If they pay more premium in than was illustrated, they run the risk of meching their policy. If they pay less than what was illustrated, they run the risk of lapsing the plan. So I would encourage your client to stick to the plan as far as how this plan was illustrated initially. When they want to access their money can vary a little bit from plan to plan and carrier to carrier, but in general, they don't really want to try to touch any of the cash value within about the first 10 to 12 years, and there's 2 reasons for that. They are based off of surrender charge period and just letting the policy get growing strongly. Most plans have around a 10, maybe 12-year surrender term, and they also just don't want to hamstring their policy by taking money out early. So usually suggesting at least waiting 10 or 12 years to access their cash value is a good rule of thumb there. As far as licenses go, all you need is your regular life insurance license to sell these plans. These are not variable plans. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you tuning into these videos. If you have any questions or want any illustrations worked up, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you all taken care of. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.